After being in the news for a comment she made on her podcast, Sophie Cunningham's week that keeps on giving has hit a new high. She started out the week on Good Morning America, and now she is closing out the week starring in an Adidas commercial highlighting the new shoes that are about to be released.
Okay, this is wild. Sophie Cunningham just turned a simple sneaker ad into the most talked about moment in the entire WNBA. What was supposed to be a fun, lighthearted Adidas commercial, just showing off some new electric pink shoes, completely exploded into controversy after fans noticed some seriously subtle digs aimed right at the Indiana Fever.
Sophie Cunningham has taken the ball and ran with it. For that, Sophie Cunningham, kudos to you. Making lemonade out of the lemons that you've been given. Capitalizing on your newfound fame, your newfound stardom, being a part of the Indiana Fever, defending Caitlin Clark. You got the Arby's deal, you got the ring deal, and now starring in a commercial.
And get this, the clip went absolutely viral overnight, sparking massive debates about loyalty, fame, and money across the league. Everyone was asking, was Sophie actually using this massive spotlight to send some kind of hidden message to her team, or even the entire WNBA? Whatever her intention, one thing's for sure, this commercial just changed how everyone sees Sophie Cunningham forever.
All new X colorways from Adidas and Damian Lillard.
Say night-night to your opponent in night purple. Be in your element with black sulfur, or cause a shock with electric pink.
Where's electric pink?
Sophie Cunningham?
I'm busy.
Wow! Thank you.
Available at Adidas.com. Availability, sizing, color, website address, and prices may vary by region. Please check with local retailer. And remember, always Dame time responsibly.
It started out looking like any other promo from Adidas. You know, just them unveiling their latest line of basketball shoes. But, hold up. This time something felt different. Sophie Cunningham wasn't just another face in the ad. She was the entire centerpiece. Dressed in this striking electric pink, she totally commanded every single frame, with the kind of confidence that basically screamed, "Yeah, I've arrived."
This is pretty much a Sophie Cunningham commercial, let's be honest here. This isn't her alongside another WNBA player. This isn't her alongside another NBA player. This is a Sophie Cunningham commercial selling these new Dame shoes.
Now, fans were expecting a quick cameo, right? Maybe just a group feature with some other WNBA or NBA athletes. Instead, they got a full-on Sophie Cunningham showcase. And that's when social media absolutely lit up. Within hours, clips of the ad flooded TikTok and X, and viewers just couldn't ignore the undertone. Here's what's really happening. It wasn't just a commercial. It was a statement. Sophie's smirk, her dismissive "I'm busy" line, and then that closing shot with the slogan "Be unapologetic" sent fans into a total frenzy. Some people saw pure empowerment, but a whole lot of others saw some serious shade being thrown directly at the Indiana Fever.
Adidas sees the money that Sophie Cunningham is, see the star that she is becoming, that she continues to become, and said, yep, we're gonna capitalize on that. She's already been underneath the brand. She's already been affiliated with Adidas, and they said, let's push that button real quick. We see her on let's push that button. We see her TikTok blowing up, her Instagram blowing up. Let's get some of those eyeballs onto our product, and hopefully that can help convert some sales.
And get this, the timing of all this couldn't have been more suspicious. Just days before, Sophie made some serious waves on her podcast, hinting pretty strongly that she wanted a bigger contract, and even casually mentioning cities outside of Indiana.
Sophie Cunningham also in the news for comments she made about her new potential contract, maybe mentioned some cities that aren't Indiana. Has fans asking the question, is Sophie Cunningham coming back? Are the Fever front office going to blow this? Are the Fever front office going to offer her a max contract?
For a lot of people, that Adidas ad felt like the absolute exclamation point to that whole contract conversation. So, was Sophie subtly signaling her independence from the Fever? Or was Adidas just totally capitalizing on her rising popularity to stir up some controversy for clicks and sales? Either way, you have to understand,
hey, the reaction was massive.
So many people would love to buy some Sophie Cunningham Adidas merchandise. Please make it happen. Don't want a PE. I want her own shoe. I gotta be honest. The term electric pink for Sophie Cunningham, electric pink, I don't hate that name either. Extra spicy. Hey, I'm not mad at this little rollout that we got for Sophie Cunningham this week. It's not a coincidence. I'm sure this commercial was shot weeks ago or months ago, but it's no coincidence that we have Good Morning America on Monday and we close out with an Adidas commercial.
Meanwhile, sports media outlets picked up on it immediately, analyzing every single second of that commercial. Some praised Sophie for totally owning her narrative, calling it pure marketing brilliance. Others, though, accused her of being arrogant, saying she'd let fame cloud her loyalty to the team. Fans were completely divided, but here's the kicker. One thing was absolutely undeniable. Sophie Cunningham had officially crossed over into mainstream recognition.
That's how this is done. You build and you build and you build. You reach that climax, boom, hit them with the commercial. Salute to Sophie Cunningham. I like the nicknames. Extra spicy, electric pink. Absolutely awesome. I'm so happy to see Sophie coining it. I'd like her to get enough money to buy a house so that she can play for the team she wants to play for, not be focused on their earnings.
But hold up. Insiders were claiming that the front office was definitely not thrilled about any of this. They knew that kind of attention could totally shift the focus away from the team and straight onto Sophie's personal brand. And what blew my mind was realizing, if there's one thing the WNBA isn't exactly built to handle gracefully, it's when a player's individual spotlight starts to outshine the entire franchise. What happened next made it crystal clear this wasn't just some viral moment. It was the start of a massive power shift happening right inside the Indiana Fever.
Sophie Cunningham was building a name for herself as far as her TikTok goes, as far as her Instagram goes, as far as her likeness goes, as far as her appeal goes. She already had the nickname MAGA Barbie, like it or not, over there in Phoenix Mercury. So she already had some clout, so to speak, before coming to Indiana. And then this year has done nothing but just take it to another level.
Okay, so Adidas saw something in Sophie Cunningham that honestly the rest of the WNBA seemed a little slow to recognize. Pure undeniable star power. When her name started trending like crazy, after those fiery moments defending Caitlin Clark, and with her bold social media presence, the brand knew instantly they had lightning in a bottle. The decision to make her the face of their latest campaign wasn't random at all. It was totally calculated. Sophie embodied exactly what Adidas wanted to capture. Confidence, chaos, and charisma all rolled into one. And get this, in the commercial, Sophie didn't even need teammates or background extras. Her energy alone filled the entire screen. Adidas gave her the spotlight, framing her as this huge disruptor in a league that, let's be honest, often struggles to produce true marketing icons. They leaned into her polarizing image, the one fans either absolutely adore or fiercely criticize, and they turned it into her greatest weapon. That line, electric pink, wasn't just a color. It became a personality trait, symbolizing Sophie's unpredictable edge. The rollout? Pure genius. The ad dropped right after her appearance on Good Morning America, a moment that was already rocketing her into national headlines. Plot twist. It wasn't a coincidence. It was strategy. Adidas waited until the hype around Sophie peaked. Then they unleashed the campaign to capture every single ounce of that momentum. Within hours, electric pink was trending, and Sophie's name was being searched more than any other WNBA player that week. This was the kind of brand synergy the league dreams about. A player becoming a cultural conversation, not just another sports store. Adidas didn't just sell shoes. They sold Sophie Cunningham as a lifestyle. They positioned her as the WNBA's rebellious ambassador, someone unafraid to challenge the system, while looking absolutely flawless doing it. For Sophie, this was massive validation. She'd spent years grinding for recognition, often overshadowed by bigger names. But now, she was the headline. Adidas had literally made her impossible to ignore. And as fans celebrated her glow-up, the Indiana Fever front office started to feel some serious heat. Because here's what's really happening. When a player's market value skyrockets overnight, it doesn't just boost her brand, it changes everything about her future with the team. What's even more insane is that while the Adidas commercial was still making waves, Sophie Cunningham dropped another surprise that had Fever fans holding their breath. During her podcast appearance, she spoke openly about her next contract, and the message was crystal clear. She wasn't just looking for another deal, she was looking for a home. With a calm smile, Sophie said she wanted a bigger contract, so she could finally buy a house and feel cozy. That line sounded harmless at first, but what followed turned it into a bombshell moment. She casually mentioned cities like New York and Minneapolis as places she could see herself living. That single sentence sent social media into absolute chaos. People immediately started speculating whether she was teasing a move to the New York Liberty or the Minnesota Lynx. In Indiana, Fever supporters flooded comment sections, begging her not to leave. Others accused her of playing the media game, basically using contract talks to pressure the front office into paying up. Sophie, for her part, didn't backtrack. She doubled down on her worth, saying she wanted a contract that reflected not just her play, but her influence. And honestly, she's not wrong. Few players have leveraged fame, fashion, and fan engagement the way Sophie has this season. Between her Arby's partnership, her viral TikToks, and now that Adidas spotlight, she's become a total marketing magnet. But here's the kicker. The real tension lies beneath the surface. The Fever already have major financial commitments ahead, especially with Caitlin Clark's inevitable max extension on the horizon. So the big question is, can Indiana really afford to pay Sophie what she's worth without compromising their cap space? Whether it was intentional or not, her comments put serious public pressure on the French. Fans, sponsors, and even the media started framing her as one of the league's rising free agents. Sophie's bigger contract comment wasn't just about money, it was about status, leverage, and true independence. And if the Fever don't handle this the right way, they could find themselves watching Sophie Cunningham take her electric pink glow somewhere else entirely. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever suddenly found themselves in the hot seat, just when the franchise was finally regaining national attention, thanks to Caitlin Clark's popularity and the team's chemistry. Sophie Cunningham's Adidas commercial and those contract remarks reignited a full-blown storm of speculation. Inside the organization, executives reportedly felt completely blindsided. They knew Sophie had become a fan favorite, but they absolutely did not expect her to control the narrative so publicly. For a team desperately trying to rebuild its image, this situation created an uncomfortable spotlight that no one in the front office could ignore. Behind closed doors, Fever management faces a massive dilemma. Sophie's breakout year has undeniably boosted the team's visibility. But here's the problem. Her new market value is rising faster than their payroll can possibly handle. The WNBA salary cap remains incredibly tight, and soon the Fever will have to pay both Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston top dollar. Giving Sophie a large deal now could seriously complicate their long-term roster flexibility. But underpaying her risks losing one of the league's most charismatic players, potentially alienating a growing fan base drawn to her bold personality. Financial experts around the league are arguing that Sophie's brand value alone totally justifies a strong offer. She brings attention, sponsors, and audience engagement, which frankly the Fever have struggled to generate for years. The traditionalists within the organization, though, might hesitate, questioning whether her on-court production actually matches her off-court. This internal tug-of-war could very well define the Fever's next chapter. On top of that, fans have made their stance crystal clear. Social media is filled with hashtags like Pay Sophie and Keep Cunningham, with supporters demanding the team show respect for her impact. The Fever's silence only fuels the drama. Every day they wait to address it, the tension grows and the risk of losing her multiplies. And Sophie's camp isn't staying quiet either. Sources close to her suggest she's fully aware of the leverage she holds. And believe me, she's ready to use it. The Adidas spotlight gave her more than just fame. It gave her serious negotiating power. And if Indiana hesitates much longer, Sophie might just remind them how replaceable loyalty can be in a business built on branding. But wait, it gets better. Sophie Cunningham has mastered something few WNBA players ever have, turning controversy into currency. Long before the Adidas deal, she was already crafting a brand that lived way beyond basketball. Her presence on TikTok and Instagram absolutely exploded after her fiery on-court clashes and unapologetic interview. But what makes her different is how she's leaned into that spotlight instead of running from it. Every viral clip, every bold statement, every sideline smirk has become part of the Sophie Cunningham brand. Confident, chaotic, and captivating. Her nickname MAGA Barbie, once a jab from critics during her Phoenix Mercury days, somehow evolved into a marketing tool. She embraced it, she flipped the script, and she turned it into part of her identity. That's what makes Sophie such a force in the modern sports world. She's self-aware, she understands attention economics, and she absolutely knows how to monetize the noise. Her Arby's deal, her ring sponsorship, and now that Adidas Electric Pink campaign, you're looking at one of the fastest growing brands in the league. For Sophie, every single opportunity is strategic. The podcast appearances, the social media engagement, the brand collaborations, they all serve a larger goal: independence. She doesn't just want to be another WNBA player waiting for recognition. She's building an empire where she calls the shot. It's the same kind of playbook followed by stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. But Sophie's version feels rawer, more unpredictable, and intensely personal. What makes this rise even more fascinating is the time. The WNBA is desperate for stars who can really move the needle. And Sophie is proving that controversy sells just as much as championships. She might not be the league's top scorer, but she's definitely its top headline generator. Still, that success comes with a cost. The more she wins off the court, the more whispers grow inside the locker room and the front office. Some admire her hustle, while others see it as a distraction. But love her or hate her, Sophie Cunningham is doing what few dare to do. She's redefining what power looks like in women's basketball. And speaking of the locker room, things inside the Indiana Fever aren't as calm as they appear on camera. Sophie Cunningham's rise to superstardom has shifted the atmosphere from unity to quiet competition. Teammates who once laughed off her playful energy are now watching her endorsement deals and media attention with some very mixed feelings. Some admire her grind and see her success as motivation, but others whisper that the spotlight has become too focused on Sophie and not enough on the collective team effort. Her Adidas commercial was truly the tipping point. While fans online cheered her electric pink confidence, insiders say a few players felt totally blindsided. They saw the ad as another example of Sophie's growing independence from team branding, especially since no other Fever players appeared in. In a league built on teamwork, individual success can sometimes look a lot like rebellion. And with every viral clip, every trending hashtag, Sophie's influence inside the locker room only grows stronger. Caitlin Clark's presence, of course, adds another layer of complexity. Both players attract huge audiences, but for entirely different reasons. Clark represents that all-American underdog, clean, disciplined, focused purely on the game. Sophie is the rebel, the fiery, outspoken showstopper who thrives on chaos. Together they draw massive attention, but it's a balancing act that's incredibly hard to maintain. Some insiders say management worries about competing egos. Others believe their contrasting personalities could actually be the spark that defines this new era of the Fever. Behind the scenes, coaches are treading incredibly carefully. They know Sophie's popularity is priceless for the franchise, yet they absolutely cannot afford to lose team chemistry. Players have reportedly been told to focus on basketball and stay off social media drama. But let me break this down. That's way easier said than done in the modern WNBA, where every single move goes viral within minutes. The truth is, the Fever are standing at a major crossroads, one where fame, loyalty, and ambition are all collide. And the next decision Sophie makes could determine whether this team stays united or actually begins to crack from the inside. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark's name hovers over everything the Indiana Fever does, and Sophie Cunningham knows it. The two have become the faces of a new WNBA era, one built on flash, fandom, and fierce individuality. While Caitlin's rise was fueled by record-breaking college performances and a clean-cut image, Sophie's fame comes from her unapologetic personality and willingness to play the villain. Together they form a total marketing goldmine, but also a potential flashpoint for the team's future. From a branding standpoint, keeping Sophie and Caitlin together makes perfect sense. They completely balance each other. Caitlin draws the basketball purists, and Sophie brings in the entertainment crowd. Adidas, Nike, and even ESPN have noticed how both names dominate fan conversations. It's no coincidence that Sophie's electric pink rollout happened the same week Caitlin's Nike shoe deal headlines resurfaced. Whether planned or accidental, their combined star power is driving more engagement than the entire league managed last season. But from a team perspective, this dynamic can be super tricky. Both women demand attention in their own ways, and the Fever must navigate that spotlight without letting egos collide. Some insiders believe Sophie's recent moves, her Adidas commercial, her contract comments, her viral TikToks, are her way of making sure she isn't overshadowed by Caitlin. In a media landscape obsessed with Clark, Sophie has found her own lane and sped right into it. Fans, however, are completely split. Some love the duo, calling them the fire and ice of the Fever. Others fear that one star's success could come at the expense of the other. For now, the chemistry between them appears strong, but the whispers of competition absolutely linger. If Indiana plays this right, they could create the most marketable pairing in WNBA history. But if they mishandle it, if jealousy, contracts, or egos get in the way, it could unravel everything they've built. And in a league hungry for stars, losing either one could be catastrophic. So here's what this all means. Sophie Cunningham's rise isn't just a personal win, it's a wake-up call for the entire WNBA. For years, players were told to just let their games speak for themselves, to stay humble and let the league handle the marketing. Sophie totally flipped that rulebook upside down. She didn't wait for permission. She built her own spotlight. The Adidas commercial was more than a branding moment. It was solid proof that players now hold the power to control their own narrative. And that shift is definitely making team executives nervous. For decades, the WNBA has struggled to balance star individuality with league unity. Now Sophie stands right at the center of that tension. Her success shows that charisma, controversy, and confidence can drive fan engagement just as much as stats and championships. Fans aren't looking for quiet professionalism anymore. They're looking for personalities that trend. Sophie delivered exactly that. And in doing so, she's forcing the Fever and even the league itself to evolve. The timing couldn't be more critical, with Caitlin Clark's popularity bringing millions of new eyes to women's basketball. Players like Sophie are showing that visibility doesn't have to come from one archetype. You can be bold, unpredictable, and outspoken and still win. Her Adidas deal and growing list of endorsements prove that companies now value authenticity over conformity. But with great visibility comes even greater risk. Every statement, every contract discussion, every social media post is amplified tenfold. Sophie's next decision, whether to re-sign with the Fever or test free agency, will send ripples across the entire WNBA. If she stays, she becomes a cornerstone of a rising franchise. If she leaves, she sets a precedent for players demanding both respect and control. Either way, one thing is certain: Sophie Cunningham isn't just playing basketball anymore. She's redefining what it means to be a star in women's sports. And honestly, the game will never be the same after this. Ultimately, Sophie Cunningham's journey from role player to headline maker has completely rewritten the rules of WNBA fame. What began as a simple Adidas commercial turned into a massive statement about independence, ambition, and control. She's no longer waiting for recognition. She's commanding it. The Indiana Fever now face a defining choice: embrace Sophie's star power or risk losing her to another franchise ready to bet big on her future. Either way, Sophie has proven that she doesn't just play the game, she moves, and from this moment on, every spotlight in the league will have her name written in electric paint.